Welcome back for another multi-day hike, and today to the stunning Stirling Range National Park in the great southern region of Western Australia. In this video, I'll be sharing the iconic Stirling Range National Park, the ever-popular Bluff Knoll climb, and for the more adventurous, what some have called the hardest or most challenging hike in Western Australia, the Stirling Ridge Walk, which I tackled solo over an unreal 2-day, 1-night adventure. Heading to the park, the Stirling Ranges are located about 400 kilometres or 4.5 hours drive southeast of Perth. I had been road tripping the area together with my beautiful mum late last year, and I think it would be fair to say we were both pretty impressed to see this incredible mountain range come up out of so much flat country over in the west. The range is most visited and well known for the Bluff Knoll climb, a recommended 3 to 4 hour, 6.8 kilometre return trail to the summit and back, climbing to an impressive 1,095 metres above sea level. We decided to make the climb for sunrise on our first full day in the park, and despite having easy to follow trail, spotting some wildlife, and making good time, the weather was simply not in our favour. Waiting out the sunrise, the summit was a total whiteout, so in the freezing conditions, we made hot chocolates and battled the winds back down. Grabbing my pack and once again starting at sunrise, today I'll head out on the more exciting and challenging Stirling Ridge Walk itself. From the Stirling Range retreat, an approximate 30-minute drive east will get you to the trailhead on the Ellens Peak side of the park to start the walk. And the colours and the weather this morning were already looking so much better than the day before. The trail is indicated straight away as a wilderness zone with no markers or trail to follow, meaning it is extra important to follow leave no trace principles and look after this ridge that I'll be following for the next 25 kilometres or so. Starting easily on the park's boundary fire trail for the first 6 kilometres, the walk is very easygoing and straightforward, before reaching a second sign and now heading off trail into the bush. So here it's probably best to have a good idea of direction and where you're going. Being my first time in the park, I was pretty lucky to have been given a few pointers and thankfully ended up finding the trail pretty easy to navigate, quickly covering ground to the ridge, then moving up the steady incline towards Ellens Peak summit. There are beautiful open views of the surrounding area from up here and sheer cliffs which you may choose to pass under instead of directly summiting the peak. Dropping my pack in the beautiful weather, I did want to scramble up to the summit and was once again treated with gorgeous views over the ridge and a chance for hikers to sign the little book left at the peak. Heading back off the side, I grabbed my pack again, now moving west along the ridge towards Bluff Knoll. Covered some absolute magic scenery up here and passed protected potential camp spots on my way towards the arrows. The first, second and third arrows are 3 individual prominent rocky peaks sitting side by side on the ridgeline and are, in my opinion, the more challenging part of this hike, as they require hikers to now rock scramble instead of simply navigating towards Bluff Knoll. I really found this section to be a lot of fun, with steep rock steps, climbs, sheer edges, and incredible views. With no reliable water source on the ridge, a water barrel has been placed here and can be accessed to refill if hikers can make the climb. Parts of the arrows are quite exposed and drop off quite sharply, so whilst I loved it, I'd really recommend being comfortable with heights and can definitely see the advantages to having a second person who could help you navigate, lend a hand, or who you could even pass a heavy pack down to on some steeper sections. Clearing the arrows, I opted to end the day early and stay in a protected she oak grove looking back at the rocky landscape. Now that the most challenging sections are out of the way, I enjoyed the sunset colours and freeze-dried ice cream before huddling up for a windy night. Waking up, I was blessed again with a gorgeous sunrise. Unfortunately, it was just hidden behind the arrows, but still absolutely lit up the surrounding peaks with pinks and yellows. Beyond this point, the ridge becomes quite exposed and has very little protection from the wind, and sun, however, has a lot less technical walking or scrambling, and while still not having any marked trail or signs to follow, is basically just a walk through to Bluff Knoll now. More incredible views and a bit of wildlife before stopping for a few snacks in the sun. There's still a fair bit of elevation change left for the trail now, being able to look back both at where you've come and where you're heading, which is something I really loved about this track. Not to mention the wildflowers, which just enhance the experience of being up in the mountains so much. I found this little Lizzie for company and to share my snacks with today. And with the weather coming out hot, wanted to be finished before too late, so made my way through the vegetation and towards the final peak. With epic views along the way, I now simply had to summit Bluff Knoll, this time on its eastern side, and could enjoy the views this time without the cold and whiteout conditions, showing just how changeable the weather can be over a couple of days. The walk down from Bluff Knoll follows the same trail we had used to summit for sunrise and is of course very well marked and super easy to follow, which thankfully led me to quite an easy and successful end to my Stirling Ridge hike. This hike was such an unreal little mission for me last year, as my first experience of having a trail which required navigation, and I think definitely gave me some confidence and experience to jump out on longer trails like the Australian Alps walking track, which I completed earlier this year. I didn't personally feel after walking that the trail was anywhere near as remote or challenging as some others had made it out to be, and I think I was a little disappointed with how easy it was to follow footpaths or paths for parts of the ridge as someone with no navigational experience, despite its claims to have had no trail and be unmarked. Of course, if you plan on getting out there, please go prepared and make your own judgments, but overall I had a great experience with this trail and cannot wait to get back and hopefully explore more of the park's peaks someday soon.